Talk about the Halloween party at school. Whoa, loud, large, lots of people, parents, kids, costumes, unpredictability, if that's the word to use.
Yeah.
Crazy chaos. I mean, whoa.
I mean, I think that again, knowing your child, because for some individuals, like you're saying, that could be like their favorite day of the year. There's less attention on them, especially, let's say child might be struggling academically. It could be a really fun day where they're just focusing on a fun, task and activity rather than focusing on school. So some kids love Halloween, even those kids that maybe don't love the large loud because the attention's off of them. But I do think that there's many ways to prepare for that. It depends. Many times I know that there are some schools that will include parents into like a Halloween experience versus some schools that it's just the kids. So if you have a school where parents are included, maybe it's like a fun Halloween parade. We always say, arrive early, maybe talking to the teacher prior to the Halloween festivities that are going on and seeing like, is there a role that maybe my child and a buddy can do together to be the helper? And so again, maybe it gives them something to think about, so that when they go into the situation, it's predictable. They already know what they're going to be doing. And so it feels comfortable for them. They could be the ones that are passing out all the candy to everyone. Maybe their friend passes out the candy and they grab, everyone's plates at the end. So there's many ways that we could think about Halloween in general. We have a lot of amazing fun poll games that we do. So I know one poll that we have a lot is like, what's your Halloween costume or what's your favorite Halloween candy? So that could be like a fun game that you can always maybe talk to a teacher or staff member about prior to the Halloween party. And maybe that's just a fun game that you do as the class that day. And the child already knows the game. Maybe they've already played it with their relatives. So it could be like a really fun confidence booster for them to go around and maybe ask different people their Halloween costume, but other kids are also asking, so it's not just on them. So I would definitely say predictability is important, being structured. So giving them a purpose into that dynamic, I think can make it feel a lot more comfortable.
Yeah, and also like for the kids that are a little more anxious and aren't as verbal and aren't as ready, some kids don't wear costumes. Like you said, it could be just a very minimal costume, if at all. And that's okay. Some kids realize, well, if I don't wear a costume, I'm going to stand out more. So we don't want to pressure them. But maybe, like I said, a dual costume with a friend. Arrive early to that Halloween gathering at school. Have them bring something they like, maybe cookies, and handing it out with a buddy. Sitting on the outskirts is okay in these types of louder, larger, high, lots of noise. So it's more of sit on the outskirts is okay. Bring a sibling. I've had plenty of kids bring a younger sibling to some of these class parties because it really does help them like have their little kind of like a big shot role and like I'm proud of my little brother or sister. So that's been really helpful. And of course, being with a friend. Halloween parades can be rough. I've had families where the mom or the dad goes with them around the Halloween. They look like a teacher. Also, being with the teacher for that child. Maybe that child needs to be near their teacher and definitely paired perhaps with a buddy. Maybe they don't do the Halloween parade that year. Maybe it's too much. So it really is about the child. Look, we don't want to miss activities, but there's ways to pick and choose. And there's also, accommodations that can be made to help that child feel more comfortable. But anything we can do to give them big shot roles, leadership roles, areas of interest where they're part of it at the level or stage that they can function at, I think is important. Listeners, if you have any questions on this, we encourage you to reach out. We do have a wonderful handout called Tips for a Successful Halloween for Children with Selective Mutism. This podcast was to give you some ideas, to hear us talk about it. You're probably going to have some questions. Again, feel free to give us an email. We're happy to answer the questions. We're happy to help you make this a wonderful and smooth Halloween. Not too spooky, but just spooky enough.
And I would also just add, you potentially might have a week or two prior to Halloween by the time you're listening to this. And so definitely encouraging to think about what the next few days can look like leading up to that, because preparation is so important. So I think really having those conversations with your kids and making it a really fun experience. Because, like I said, for some kids, this is their favorite holiday of the year. So making it fun, but also just providing them with various strategies that we talked about today is going to make it so much more successful.